Boot up, good side. Boot her up, good side. Boot her up.
Leaving all that in.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. I'm Will, that's Blake. Today we're talking a little zombies, a little Last of Us season finale, but also kind of just our thoughts on the show as a whole.
Yeah, I kind of think of this series as like, should you watch it? Like now that we've, if you've come across, it's actually a pretty terrible video for that. Because I was going to say, if you're curious about watching it and you've kind of stumbled across this video, hopefully we'd answer that question. But then also we're going to be talking spoilers for the show. So
that's true.
So yeah, I don't know.
We'll workshop the title, but yeah, in general, it's kind of like our analysis, our thoughts on the show as a whole. But we've also been doing a little discussion on each episode, and we hadn't done that for the finale, so it's also going to kind of be that.
Now that we've kind of let it simmer for a couple of weeks, let the emotional drug wear off. But first of all, how are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just been doing some cleaning around the house today. Been cleaning out the fridge, which was a bit long overdue.
Bro, isn't it so gross how that like everything builds up, but then once it's like all nice and clean, you're just like, bro.
Yeah.
Like you want to go to the grocery store and stock it with like
just get it all nice and
never even bought before. It's like dragon fruit always goes right here.
You get it, like, man.
When did you ever buy that? And you're like, I always get dragon fruit. I just haven't had my spot for it.
That's right.
So
yeah, dude, totally. And it's always just, you go through and you're looking at like the stuff that expired 4 years ago in the back of the, the pickle drawer or whatever, and not pickle drawer, but you know what I mean.
Favorite number, pickle drawer. What other idiosyncrasy does Will have that we'll find out about?
Yeah, subscribe and maybe you'll find out.
Yeah. I worry about, we typically don't keep stuff like too late, only because like when we have like a babysitter, we always say like, hey, help yourself to anything in the fridge. And I always have like this fear of someone being like getting super sick and being like
suing you or something.
No, but just feeling bad.
Just feeling responsible for that.
Someone being like really sick and being like, what did you eat? And they're like, oh, that pasta. And I'm like, the one with the blue lid on it? Did you see the mold? So anyway, we try to clean it out every now and then.
That reminded me of that Arrested Development bit where the fridge was like the sack and it said like dead bird don't eat or something.
I don't know what I expected.
Yeah. Classic.
So,
but how are you doing? How have you been today?
I'm good. I'm going out of town this weekend, so I'm trying to get some things in order. And we got my wife some decaf coffee because she doesn't do caffeine. And it's kind of opened my world a little bit because I'm like, we talked in our last episode, like once it hits a certain time, I'm like, no more coffee. But now I'm like, dude, if it's 10 o'clock at night, I can just bust that bad boy out.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice little placebo.
Right? All of a sudden I was like, am I too stupid to understand decaf coffee? I'm like, well, that is what that means, right?
It does still have some caffeine, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Like it's not like wondering. It's not caffeine completely free, but yeah, it doesn't have very much. Yeah, I've done that as well. Little like after dinner cup of decaf.
Yeah.
It's nice sometimes.
It is, especially you go to like a nice restaurant. This is like few and far between, but they, bring you like a cup of coffee or something, like go with your dessert.
It's a good move.
We went to Applebee's for our anniversary, but I'm just kidding. We didn't. Is that still in business, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them around, so who knows how.
Where have you seen one?
We, I think I saw one in Little Rock last time I was there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll give you that. All right. Well, shall we chat about season 1 of The Last of Us?
Yeah, let's do it. I was about to launch into like my recap spiel that we do on Critical Role, but that's not necessary here. So I guess first things first, just episode 9 before we go further. What did you think of it?
I liked it a lot. It was pretty much of all the episodes, the one that was in my mind most similar in terms of like a port from the game. Um,
Mm.
there were some like small like creative liberties in like other episodes, and this one felt like a lifted almost scene for scene um, from the game. So
Yeah.
yeah, I liked it. I liked it. It was kind of what I would have wanted to see if I, blindfolded, didn't know there was a show and like wanted to like re-experience the finale of the game.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I thought it was, especially, I mean, there were a lot of moments during the whole show, especially, and we've talked about them, but in episode 9 in particular, like that whole sequence, like leading up to the giraffe moment, I felt like it was like verbatim the exact same,
Yeah.
even with the ladder
Yeah.
falling down. So I thought that was great. But yeah, it was super faithful. I really enjoyed it as well, and it was cool to see Ashley Johnson, of course,
Oh yeah.
in the intro, which that wasn't in the game, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Is any of that touched on in the second game?
I never beat it,
Okay.
so I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
think so.
I didn't think it was either, but I never even played this. If you guys been watching this series, you're probably tired of me saying this, but I never played the second game, but I am familiar. Like I read a summary, a synopsis of what happened, but I wasn't sure if that was touched on or not. Which, I don't know if we have an agenda of how we want to do this, but while we're talking about Ashley Johnson, well, real quick, also Laura Bailey made a little
Yeah.
cameo in the show that
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think either of us noticed at the time, and we like both texted each other later that night, being like, "What
Right.
the heck?"
Yeah. Right.
But she was playing one of the nurses in that final scene. And for those of you that don't know, Laura Bailey is also a voice actress that is plays one of the main characters from the second game. So
Yeah. I also love just a nice little detail, in the game. It's like, do you shoot the doctor or not? And in the show, Joel just, instantly caps the dude.
yeah, no mercy,
So,
Percy.
yeah.
Uh, which I wonder. I mean, clearly they're making a second season. The fact that they threw Laura in here, I mean, not that I expected Laura Bailey to have a massive role. I mean, just similarly to Troy Baker or Ashley Johnson, I figured they might give her a little cameo role. But they did that here in the finale. So I'm wondering, could we still see her in a small role next season? Or do you think that box has kind of been checked? Because she was fully in scrubs with a mask on. So
Mhm.
if Laura Bailey, the actress, showed up playing somebody else, I don't really think that would be
Did
immersion
they
breaking.
did they say they're going to do season 2 if it's going to be the second game? Because I originally thought they said they were going to pick up with the second game, but I guess not. Just because there's such a time skip. I think it's like 5 years going into the second game. Um,
So you think
which it
there
wouldn't
might?
be. I would assume they're going to use like that 5 years as like a gap or something. Or as season 2 content. I mean, I'm just reading right now to see what they're saying.
Well, that would be interesting. Like we get kind of some unseen. We get some story that we've never seen before, like in the gap between games 1 and 2 could be season 2.
Well, in the game, you actually get flashbacks of things that happened in that 5-year gap.
Okay.
Like little adventures they went on, things that happened, important moments. Because these flashbacks are kind of like continuing to like set the tone of Ellie's character. So I could see those things rather than being flashbacks, like actually happening in season 2. It would be weird to me for them to just go straight to the second game for season 2. And only because I wonder, like, where do you go after that? I mean, I haven't read any of the reactions or like the overall reviews of the show, but I'm assuming it's mostly positive. And in that case, I would assume, again, that they'd want to stretch this out a bit more in terms of like what content there is.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense to me. So, did you end up seeing if they'd commented at all on?
I couldn't find it, but I was also just kind of
Yeah.
looking in general. But it's also great marketing, by the way. Like, you watch a show, then you kind of have like this phase of like kind of falling out.
Mhm.
Um, unless you have like a really loyal fan base. And I could see like, you know, season 4 of The Last of Us picking up at the start of the second game, and then people who like loved the game and played the second game are now like, oh dang, I'm
Yeah.
gonna check that out. And so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's at least feasible to me. It'll be interesting to see with how faithful they were to the original game, even to the point of truncating certain things, which we've talked about throughout this season. Part of me would be surprised if they kind of elongated the story in that way of like,
Mhm.
I don't want to call it filler because that wouldn't be what it is, but you know, had season 2 or whatever before they moved to the second game. That seems kind of like contrary to their like
Mhm.
mission statement that I'm not using the right words here, but I would be down if so.
Yeah.
Um,
But where does the show go otherwise? You know what I'm saying? Like if season 2 is the second game, you know what
where
I'm
does it go
saying? Like
after that? You mean?
or maybe the second game is seasons 2 and 3 and they don't truncate things.
Yeah.
Um or maybe it's kind of like Ozark, like they were just like it's a very, or I think Ted Lasso, like it's going to be 3 seasons and like that's the story we're going to tell. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see once they start. Maybe they already have started development on season 2. I guess you can assume they have, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. And I mean, it would be kind of refreshing if they were like, this is only going to be 2 seasons. If as a fan of it, I want more, but it's all like far too many shows drive off that cliff of
Yeah.
like, renew us again, like let's print some more money. So,
Yeah,
um,
I think there's something to be said about like Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan being like, we're done after this
yeah,
season. And it does feel like more shows now have been comfortable with, hey, yeah, this is a 4-season story. I mean, other than um only because I think, like you said, what feels like the norm when we were growing up was like, season 8, season 9, and
yeah,
the show kind of like, what's it called? Jumping the shark.
hmm
Is that right?
hmm
But
yep.
yeah, so I could see that for sure.
Originated from Happy Days, the
Right.
jump in the
Where he
shark
jumps the
phrase.
shark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, we're kind of dancing on this already. Well, before I move to that, actually, one other thing about the Ashley Johnson kind of intro segment. One, I enjoyed that. So cool to see Ashley Johnson get that spotlight as the voice actress of Ellie in the games. Um, but the reason I asked you if any of that was in the games was because I was wondering if this was kind of our clue in to why Ellie was immune. Do you think it has to do with the fact that her mom got bit like right before she gave birth, and like maybe the
Yeah.
disease went
Eh,
through the umbilical cord, and because she had it at that like formative time, like is that?
I feel like that's, if not like directly implied, like heavily implied. And if it's not what they were implying, I would, I would be surprised if they weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like getting bit while delivering Ellie seems like the reason, like you're infected but not fully infected.
Right.
Um, but
And so, just to be clear, throughout the second game or anything, that never came up for like they never gave an explanation to why Ellie was immune or
like I
anything.
said, I didn't finish it. I got a good chunk of the ways through it, but the the second game is very much moving forward, I guess, rather
Yeah.
than like what happened to the world. Here's these flashbacks. Having said that, I just talked about all the flashbacks that there are in it. Um,
I know what you mean,
but
though.
yeah, for me, and again, people who've played the game all the way through, this could be a totally incorrect statement. Having played probably about 2/3 of it, it just, like, that was already established in the first game, and it just doesn't. It's not like a focus point, I
Yeah.
guess.
That
Unless I'm
that's
just, and it was years ago that I played it, so I could be totally off.
yeah. Well, that was my assumption that it was just kind of never touched on, which was cool that they decided to shed some light on it in the show.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was my assumption, is that whole circumstance had to do with why she was immune. Um, is there any chance that her mother was immune? It seemed like she did seem to be like succumbing to the, like she looked like real pale and she didn't look good. But at the
She
same
also
time,
just
she just gave
delivered,
birth, you know,
yeah,
in the
while getting
apocalypse.
attacked. I mean,
Yeah.
you know that. I mean, it wrecks your body to deliver a baby. So
Right.
but that's an interesting point though. Like I assumed it was the transition of the baby being born while the bite was happening. It'd be crazy and very tragic if Ashley Johnson was just flatly immune
Yeah.
from the get go. So
Because, you know, and maybe they did this on purpose to kind of leave it as an interesting question, but you know, we never see her turn.
yeah,
She just,
right,
Marlene shoots her.
right,
Um, so I wasn't sure if that was kind of an intentional ambiguity to wonder if maybe she
yeah,
would have also been immune.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I thought that was handled really well, and of course we get the switchblade that her mom gives her, and
yeah.
the jacket, right, which is the jacket she's wearing now in the present, right, the one she was
That
like
detail
wrapped
I
up in.
missed. I missed that detail, so I'm not sure about
Okay,
that.
it looked like it, but I wasn't sure if that's what it was.
Yeah,
But
yeah, okay.
if it is, I thought that was cool. But yeah, we joked during that scene that the guy that was holding Ellie had like one job to cover her ears, and he didn't do it.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe talk about like high points and low points of the season, and then maybe we can each give it like an overall grade, like we've done with past stuff.
Yeah.
This is all like shooting from the hip, guys. We don't really, we kind of figured this out as we do it. Um, but what were your highest points of the show as you were watching it?
Mm,
And they could be moments or episodes or
yeah.
you
Okay.
know.
Highest points for me was one, just the level of quality, which I get that maybe is like a kind of cop out answer, but just in terms of, it's something we talked about a lot, but like the attention to detail and the passion that you could feel was going into this from the people that were creating it to stay true to the original. And you know, and morphing it when appropriate to make it fresh, like the Bill and Frank episode, for example. But yeah, just the quality, like the acting from Pedro and Bella, I thought was top notch.
Mhm.
And just probably my favorite, if I can, which isn't really the question you asked me, but my favorite parts of the show would be just the moments that were ripped straight from the video game. Like,
Mhm.
I love that they did make a few left turns here and there to keep it fresh for us, but on the like really important moments, they just stayed right true to it, which is what you want to
Right.
see as, you know, a fan of something that's being adapted. So I think they rode that line really well of like
Mhm.
keeping it true to what makes it such a beloved franchise in the first place, while also weaving in the surprises for the longtime fans. Similar
Right.
to how Legend of Vox Machina did, honestly, like being really
Mhm.
true to the source material while spicing it up. So
Right. Like I think of like the plane crashing in episode
yeah,
1 is that, you're expecting something different and then the car, that we've passed the car and you're like, well, wait a second,
yeah,
that's not what's supposed to happen. And then that was a nice little shift for sure.
yeah, great example, exactly.
Mm.
But what about you?
High points. I would echo what you said. The show was extremely well made. I thought it was very well done. I think about certain scenes that just come to mind that really like exemplified to me just like the power of the show, like in terms of like satisfying me. The intro in oh, where is it? The woman who's the mycologist,
Oh yeah, yeah,
the professor.
yeah.
That intro was just so freaking good.
That was really good.
Episode 1 was terrific. Tess, episode 3, I think it was the ending of episode 3 where Tess reveals she's been bit. And that
Yeah,
actress was incredible.
yeah, she was great.
So good. And then I think the David finale was also really good. Very satisfying. Other than that, like you said, like just so much fan service. I mean, you could just tell they really enjoyed making it. And I felt, this is such a weird thing to say because I don't think I ever would say like I felt disrespected as a fan, but on the flip side, it's nice when you watch something and you're like, hey, they had me in mind, not me
Yeah.
individually, but like someone who played the game. So that was nice too. It was like, it was just cool. It was cool to see that kind of fan service in a way that wasn't like overly indulgent or like just trying to get viewers, I guess.
Yeah.
So, because there could have been, we never watched any of the previews, but it could have been like, next time on The Last of Us, Joel fights a boomer. I need more ammo. I don't know, something stupid. But
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, it would be easy to drift into that, honestly. Just
or
go like
bloater, boomers from Gears of War.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, fights a bloater. Someone
Which,
who didn't follow that were like, he's fighting like an actual boomer? What?
why is he beating up the elderly?
Yeah. No.
Which they're making. I think they're making a Gears of War movie or something. Speaking
Interesting. That's a great example of like really awesome world building that I have very little confidence in them like illustrating. But
yeah.
anyway, I wish I never felt that way with The Last of Us. I felt pretty good about The Last of Us from the get go, I think.
Yeah, it lends itself because it's like the story. I mean, not that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get lost on that, but I agree. Like, Blake and I actually played through a bunch of the Gears of War together back when we were roommates. So I love it. Those trailers were so good. For those of you that know what we're talking about, they always like had the most epic, like emotional trailers. But I can't see them. I don't know. It would be really hard to do it well because like it's kind of, they're these huge like meatheads. Like who are you gonna get? Like I know Dave Bautista has been. I know he's been like campaigning for that role, and he would probably do well at it. But I don't know. I just think that's going to be a difficult line to dance.
It's one of those things where I feel like in The Last of Us, this is totally from the hip, by the way. I feel like the revisions were so well received and appreciated and respected. Granted, Craig Mazin is already so respected in his space from Chernobyl. But sometimes those changes that you feel like need to happen aren't respected. Like I think about Halo, how they had, which I don't know if the show was canceled or not. I never watched any of it. But the Halo show, they had the Master Chief remove his helmet early on. And that I just remember seeing like headlines and people so angry. But that was presumably one of those situations where the showrunners were like, yeah, we're going to deviate a little bit because this is what works better for like the literary, the narrative that we're going. So I think it's a really challenging line to walk. And I think also it's probably why it was so valuable having the Naughty Dog guy. I can't think of his name.
Neil Druckmann?
Yeah, as a co-producer of the show, because you have someone who literally made the game to be like, okay, hey, that's a nice innovation, but that kind of deviates a little too much from like the soul of the game. Yeah, I think HBO gives a lot of like creative freedom for that kind of stuff. I just don't, my long-winded way now of saying, I just don't know if other studios will either take the same time or be given the same freedom for something like Gears of War or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's just be a real easy one to mess up because you're going to make it like a cheesy action flick type of thing. But I guess that's neither here nor there right now.
Yeah.
Where were we?
We're talking high points.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good show. It was a really good show.
Really good show.
If you guys are watching and you haven't watched The Last of Us, you're watching this YouTube video. Definitely, even if you haven't played the game, I feel like you can enjoy it. And I had friends, Will, who told me who didn't even know it was a game, who were like on episode 6 or 7, who were like, "Oh, it's really good." So I think someone who hasn't played the game would still enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it stands on its own.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that this is kind of random, but even with zombie fatigue, if I can say that, I feel like I didn't feel that during the show at all, which is kind of surprising that I didn't. So yeah, I think that just speaks to its quality as well. But what were you gonna say?
I was actually gonna ask you, like, what would be some of your low points or things that did maybe land with you in the show?
Um, so it's less of something that like didn't land, like me being like, "Oh, I wish they hadn't have done that."
Right.
Which I guess is like praise in and of itself. My low points would be, I guess, pacing at certain points. Um, and also kind of like I wish it was longer. Like I wish this was a
Yeah.
12 episode season
Hmm.
and each episode was an hour. Which the episode lengths were pretty decent, but like that first one we got was like an hour and a half, and then we got some that were I think like 40 minutes around there or something.
Yeah.
Um,
And like the 45-50 minute range for sure.
yeah.
There's a few like that.
So I mean, I know that's not very harsh of a criticism, but
Right.
that I mean that's really the only things I can complain about is that I wish there was more, and with the space of having more, I wish we could have gotten. And I think you spoke to this a lot, especially remembering the game better than me. But we would have had more time for certain things
Hmm.
to breathe, and with the shortened that we did get, I didn't dislike any of the episodes, but yeah, I am wondering like, all right, did we really need the space here when we could have had this
Yeah.
kind of have some more space?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that would be my probably only really strike is even too strong of a word, but like strike against the show was the pacing did feel a little strange in that. And if you guys didn't watch our like episode breakdowns, we talked about this a bit where we would say, or speaking for myself, I would say, yeah, this was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. However, I'm just curious like how this fits because we're getting towards the finale. Like, what does the pacing look like? Like these moments in the game. I think the perfect example would be like I mentioned this in one of the episode recaps, the university sequence, which in the show is only a few minutes. In the game, it is much longer. Um, they presumably had the budget for it, but it's one of the first moments that Ellie sort of has to defend herself, and it's just a big moment. Now, I could see the showrunners being like, "Hey, this already kind of gets, thematically delivered in the episode with David, where she's kind of having to protect
Yeah.
Joel." Um, so I think it's more of an opinion than it is like I mean, who am I to make any real criticism? But yeah, and another thing we talked about was like the Kansas City sequence, which in hindsight I actually really enjoyed both those episodes. But getting 2 episodes of that, which had some lulls in it, versus the one shorter episode with David, like that's where the pacing
Yeah.
gets a little weird for me. Again, really enjoyed the David episode. I also would have been okay if they had let it kind of set up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, having said that, I don't know if I would necessarily change anything. So
Yeah. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it in a way. But yeah, it'll be if when we do find out what season two is going to be about, I wonder if they would consider making it longer, like maybe 12 episodes season two, or if they're going to keep to this same structure. But it seems like it would be even harder to fit all of the second game into a 9 episode season, right? Again, I didn't play it, but I'm
yeah,
familiar with the story. It feels like it would. I mean, I guess you could do it. It's not like you couldn't do it, but it feels like it would be even more truncated compared to this first one.
the second game I'm not sure because the second game has so much and maybe this is why I fell off from it. It didn't like the first game in my mind had like very much like narrative intervals. Like it's this arc, it's this
Mm,
arc. Like Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, I can't remember. I
I
think it's
don't know.
Pittsburgh. Um, with Sam and Sam and Henry and then there's like the David thing and then like it all kind of fit neatly for me. The second game, maybe this was like a phase of my life where I was like really grinding away for 100% completionist, but I just remember like wandering a lot and like backtracking a lot.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time really like finding those same narrative buckets in retrospect. which I'm sure they're there. But I probably need to play through the game again, especially before season 2 happens.
Yeah. Maybe I should as well, since I never did.
Yeah. What would you rate the game, or the game? What would you rate the season now in hindsight?
Oh, like out of 10, or what kind of system are we doing here?
Let's see.
We
Rings
doing
of Power. We
letters?
did letters for Rings of Power and also EXU. But my gut is a number. So this is why I say like we're kind of all over the place. But
so out of 10 or out of like 100?
I'd say out of 10.
Out of 10?
We're not gonna get too wild.
Right. Basing it on just a single season, which, I mean, obviously there's only one season, but like, you know, if you compared this to like my rating of Breaking Bad, that's a rating of the show as a whole. So for just a singular season, I think I would give it like an 8, probably. Or like
that seems low.
That seems low. Well, I feel like only like maybe only like 1 or 2 things ever deserve a 10.
Yeah.
And so 10 is almost even unattainable. Like 10 is just there to show you what the goal is, you know?
I feel like it's wrong for me to criticize you and try to get you to raise it. I just feel 8 seems like on the brink of, you know, good, but not great.
Well, okay. Well, let me explain. 10 is basically like nothing's going to get a 10 essentially. Like sure, some things might, but for the sake of the scale, 10 is like what you're striving for, perfection.
Why does 10 exist if no one can get it then?
Well, people can get it, but I'm just saying that's like literal perfection, you know?
This is like those employee reviews where someone's like, I can't give you a 5 because no one's a 5. You know, and it's like, but my salary's tied
no,
to
that's
5.
different. That's different.
Okay.
You know, we're talking about the, you know, idealistic 10.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so some things will get that. But that's like perfection. And so 9, I feel like, which I wasn't considering decimals. So if you're wanting me to consider decimals,
I'm in the decimal range on my end.
Okay. Well, if we're talking decimals, I'd probably give it like an 8.5.
Bro. That's
9s and above would be best of the best. And so I feel like this is there, but you got to see what season 2 looks like.
Fellow Pixelist, my gut was 8.5.
Okay, I thought you were still hating on me for the 8.5.
No, yeah. 8.5 is where I landed when I was like, gut check. What's the number I would say? I'd say 8.5. I would call it a great show.
Yeah, me too.
I'd call it a great season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think having played the game, it's hard for me to like be as objective, but I definitely didn't have like I'm impacted by this like I did with like early seasons of Lost.
Yeah.
Where it like really stuck with me. Later seasons of Lost, I can understand criticism, but so that's not a slight against the show. I think it's a great show and would highly recommend it to anybody. I don't know if I'd watch it again though.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up because I agree with I don't know what to call what you were describing, but like with the Lost comparison, like it's not like stuck with me, but I wonder if I had never played the video game, if it would feel more that way. Because, you know, it's the same story we've been, for the most part, exposed to. So if it was, because the game, that does kind of have that for me, you know?
The game is a top 5 of all time for me.
Right. So I don't like, it's not even really fair to take that away from the show, but for that reason, we do feel that way.
I would maybe bump it up to a 9 outside of like the season's content, just their approach to the show, the respect to the fan base, bringing in like major voice actors from the game. So like the production side of it, I'd probably give it a 9+, but I think just gut check around the show, 8.5 feels pretty good for me.
Yeah. Same here. And, you know, if we get season 2 or however many we get, I think the show could easily become a 9 overall.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So it's just,
Yeah. I don't know what we gave Rings of Power, but I know it was lower.
I think we did letters, like you said, though.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I
Okay.
said like high C, like C plus
Yeah.
B minus.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that's yeah. I think that's right. I think we did do that.
which
Um,
we don't.
every,
We should rate more stuff. We don't do it very often, but we should get like a consistent scale because that would
yeah.
be cool to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Like our all time highest
Um,
scores and lowest scores.
yeah. We still haven't done Witcher 2, which we haven't mentioned in a while.
Ugh, it just
Witcher season
hurts too
2.
bad
Excuse me.
now.
Yeah. Now, because of the yeah, exactly. Now it feels a little irreverent to
Yeah. I'm
get
hope maybe whatever
to our
he ends up
friend
doing with
Henry, our
Warhammer will be
friend,
good.
to our friend and subscriber Henry Cavill, just willing that into existence.
What if he did
So,
just comment on this video? Like, how'd you guys know?
yeah. Okay. So yeah, 8.5s from both of us. It's rare that we're like so. We're actually pretty spot on in alignment. But that was pretty. That was wild how close we were together.
Yeah, I feel
Same
like
number.
we obviously have similar tastes, so we're gonna
Yeah.
like and dislike the same things, but we usually have a bit of a slight
Yeah.
more of a discrepancy. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so I feel like this is one of the first time. Not that we've rated that many things, but it's one of the first
Yeah.
times we've been like exactly the same.
You know, there's shows and movies. I was thinking about this. I kind of want to do like a phase 4 your pick for the worst movie ever, because that was what I was actually thinking of for like how we see things differently.
Yeah.
Was I just know we would have different answers.
We should.
So,
I do want to talk about. We haven't talked anything Marvel in a while. I'd like to
yeah.
do. If it's in like a specific Marvel video that we're like a specific Marvel property that we're just already talking about, maybe we could have a segment or just like a whole segment on meta Marvel as a whole. Be that phase 4 or whatever. Because yeah, I got some thoughts. I'm very excited. Not to say we won't do anything until this, but I know at the very, very, very least we will be talking Loki season 2 because that's where the channel started, and
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited for that. So,
Yeah.
assuming it doesn't get delayed because of they're going to try
Yeah.
to reshoot Jonathan Majors or something, which we'll
Yeah.
have to see how
Right.
that unfolds.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about with The Last of Us?
Not that this is even anything novel, but just one part from episode 9 that I loved, which I was going to ask you if it was a line from the game or not, because I couldn't remember. But I think it was at the very end, and Ellie says something to Joel about like, I guess time does heal all wounds, and he responds, "It wasn't time." I
Yeah,
was
not
like,
from the game.
ooh.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, that was
nice.
so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, even more impressive and more credit to them if that's not from the game, because that is again like a way to elevate that is easier said than done to do. So I applaud them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess since we didn't really talk about this, I mean, you and I played the game, so we already kind of have had this experience. But I guess for anybody that maybe didn't play the game that is listening to us, we should probably mention this. What do you think about? Do we think Ellie knows he's lying at the end and is just,
Right.
what's, again, since we have a grander perspective than maybe somebody normal would, but what was your take on how that was played?
I think she believed him. Even if she has an inkling of a doubt, I think she believed him for everything they've been through. He wouldn't lie to me. And because she seems reassured when he's just without hesitating is like, yeah, that's what happened. So, but as we'll see in the next season or the next game, there's a 5-year time jump. And so I think anyone would start to put 2 and 2 together. Like,
Right.
If there's all sorts of immune people, why I still not run into one? So I won't spoil anything for the second game, and it's not even the primary focus, but yeah.
Do you think this is like a I don't know, maybe it's like a whole can of worms, a whole philosophical debate, honestly, but did Joel do the right thing? Like, what, like, I don't know. How do you view that? Is he a villain for that? Is he?
I don't know. I
you know?
mean, I don't know. I think it's really unfair to quantify um, after the trauma he's been through. I mean, do we really expect him to allow his next daughter
Yeah.
to have a similar fate, to die also for something that they're not even sure is going to work?
Right.
In my mind, it's a coin flip. You know, like they've never done this before. It could just as easily not work, and Ellie's
Mhm.
dead. Um, so I don't know. I reserve my answer to that to instead, I understand.
Yeah.
Um, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand, and that's like the beauty of this story, right? To
Yeah,
have him go on this character journey to end up with that like dilemma to being faced that he's faced with. But yeah, one is just irresponsible for the doctors, like you said, like they don't even know this is gonna work. They just like found. I guess it's not fair to say the first immune person. Maybe they've dealt with other
yeah,
ones, but like, shouldn't you do some other stuff first? Like she literally had her for an hour and it's like, all right, knock her out. Let's get into that brain. Like maybe run some more tests or like try some other stuff first, like some blood
yeah. Like
transfusions or something.
they've been there for like 45 minutes, and like, all right, we're gonna cut into this bad boy.
Yeah.
And it's like, should we talk about this or yeah,
And
it's
um I think that it would be different if Ellie had agency in it, which she didn't. They just
right.
they just knocked her out and we're gonna do this because I think she probably would have been okay with it. You know, I think
Yeah,
she might have made that sacrifice. And so if they had like
yeah,
explained it to her and then she could have had the chance to like explain it to Joel, and then that would be really interesting to see if like she wanted
yeah,
to and then he
yeah,
still did what he did.
yeah.
Um but yeah, at the end of the day, I think you put it well that,
Mhm.
I can understand where he came from. It's
Yeah.
kind of unfortunate that he like murdered like 40 people in cold blood,
Yeah.
but I get it. Um
Hear that, guys? Will called that a misfortune. It's too bad.
David's
All
people are going
right.
to be eating well though.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys thought in the comments below. Hero or villain, and more importantly, what you thought about the show. And yeah, what you think with the next season? I guess as spoiler free as possible. What do you think the next season could look like? Was it going to be a following the game, or maybe some more filler stuff? So, other than that, anything else, Will?
Um, no, I don't think so. But I do think I'm leaning towards Ellie knows he's lying, but is accepting of it at the
Yeah.
end.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, other than that, no. Just appreciate you guys coming along on this journey with us. For those of you that watch the
Yeah.
show,
Yeah. Did we do our Legend of Vox Machina wrap up?
we haven't done like we talked about all the episodes, but we haven't gone back and like
Yeah. We should do
talked
that
about it
too, I
again.
think.
Yeah,
It deserves a rating, a
that's
score, if you
yeah,
will.
yeah.
So,
Okay, yeah, I'm down.
yeah. All right.
And then, of
All
course,
right.
always we got our Critical Role content. We're covering Worlds Beyond Number now.
Mhm.
Um,
Diablo, we're gonna be talking about.
we got Blake and I both played the beta for Diablo 4. So if you're a gamer, definitely check that out. We're gonna be sharing our thoughts. And yeah, I think that's all I got.
All right. We'll catch you guys later, and thanks for listening.
Bye, y'all.